Hey, what's up? This is Alchemist.camp, where we learn Elixir by building things. Last episode, we started making a CMS, and this is part 2 of that. It's a content management system that includes episodes, which are basically links to these YouTube videos with some extra information about them, and articles, which are straightforward blog posts, and resource pages. All three types of content can be tagged with various topics in a unified way. So if we were to look at the topic forum after it's all hooked up, then it would display all of those. The display isn't done for that, but the type of content does exist. You can see I have these various topics, and forum is associated to all of those, although it does not display here because we haven't built out that page yet. You could, however, go to resources, and there is one that has a forum topic right now, and same thing is true of articles. You can see this is dummy content, obviously, but the point is the topics work across the three types of content, and there's actually a function that we made last time that can add any tag to any piece of content by just passing it the content and the text that should be in the tag, i.e. quote forum or quote deployment. And this time we're going to make it so that you can edit multiple topics at once from the edit pages of the content, i.e. from the episodes pages or the article pages and so on, instead of having to go into the topics routes and individually add topics and edit them. So let's start with a quick change to the episode page itself. As you can see over here, I've got the same video container trick that I used for the StatWatch project copied into my CSS. Let's change the episode page so that it does display a video instead of basically just being whatever content you have for the article and a bunch of share buttons. So we will go over here and full screen our code and go to episode show. So in our show template for the episode, we're going to have, let's see, not there, it's going to be above the text content. We're going to have a video container, and that's just going to be a div of class video container. And it's going to have one iframe under it, and that iframe is going to be, let's see here, a width of 560, and what else do we have? We're going to have height of 315 equals 315, and it's going to have some other stuff we'll figure out after doing the emit expand. Okay, so source is going to be the URL from our model, and frame border 0, width and height have been added. Thank you, Emmet. And we're also going to have allow encrypted media. And allow full screen. All right, I think that's basically what we want. So div on the next line and the iframe in its own line. Okay, we can get the URL out of the episode information that we've saved in the database. So it's going to be URL equals string replace, because we've got to change the format of it actually. So we get episode dot video URL. That's what we have stored in our database, and that's the shortened URL that YouTube gives you when you share a video. So this is going to be something like youtu.be instead of youtube.com. We're going to use a regular expression here to change that from .be to be.com. So get the full youtube.com/embed. And then after the whole URL, we're going to add rel equals 0 parameter. And the reason I'm doing that is because that's what YouTube wants there. what they put there if they offer you an embed link. And it's resizable. Very good. Now, the next step is the edit, because when we try to edit this episode, we've got the title, we've got the slug, we've got all the content, and we do not have topics. So let's add an edit for topics. Let's bump up the font size a little bit. Most of the files aren't quite as wide as this one. And we'll go to the episode form. There we go. And we need to add an input for topics, and we'll do that right at the bottom. So this is our video URL block. Just copy that over and change the name to topics. Now there aren't actually any topics that are in the change set that we're passing in, so we've got to give it some value to put into the text input. We'll pass it in manually, and we'll call it tags. So we've actually got to pass something called tags in from the episode controller now. Let's see, it is the edit that will pass it to the form, and then update has to handle whatever tags were actually submitted in the form. We've got an episode. We don't actually have an easy way to get the tags out of it, but let's just pretend that we do. So we'll say tags equals content. Content is our context for the CMS. Dot tags loaded, we'll call it. And that's because this episode has already preloaded all of the data. It's preloaded an entity, and inside of that entity we've preloaded topics. So just pass in an episode. And let's check IEX. Of course there are errors because we're halfway through a change. Let's alias campsite.content and get an episode and see what we need to do to get the tags out. So we'll say ep1 equals content.get episode 1. So that's the first episode, and it has a bunch of stuff in it, including a preloaded entity. And that preloaded entity has a bunch of topics that are preloaded into it. And what we want out of the topics is not the ID, we want the text, and that's really all there is to them. So we'll do an enum.map of each one and getting the text out of it. Okay, that's looking close to what we want. But we've got to have a string to display in the input form. So enum.join on, or we'll join them with commas and a space. That looks pretty good. That's actually what we'll use. So we'll go to our content context and write that helper that we pretended we already had. That was called tags loaded, and these aren't necessarily episodes, they're just something that has an entity preloaded. Because it could be an article, or it could be a resource page, or it could be a fourth kind of content that I come up with in the future. So it has an entity, and that entity has to have topics preloaded. So that's a requirement of this function. Yep, and then we'll match out the topics and use them as so. Enum.map. Actually, we can do map and join together. There's an enum map join. I will take the joiner first and then the mapping function. Dot text. It's got to be 1. And go away. Yes, that looks good. Reload. Recompile. Okay. And we still have ep1 loaded. We do. Content.tags loaded for episode 1. Beautiful. string, comma, comma, comma. All right. We will use this, or I think we already are using this. Let's check it out. Tags is not available in the template. It's going to be in the episode controller. It's because we didn't pass it in. Tags. Oh, now look at that. We've got a whole bunch of tags. Maybe this also has OTP. And that works, but it did absolutely nothing, and that's because we're not handling it in the update. Okay, so we are getting in an ID, and we're getting in episode params, but now we've got to go deeper. We need, instead of just matching these as episode params, let's get topics out of that. So episode is going to have topics inside of it, and this will only match if it does, but since this form is the only way we ever get to this update function, it should always have topics. And I want it to crash if it doesn't, so that I find the problem and fix it immediately. Topics, and shoot, we're using the episode params a little lower down. Okay, so it'll still match. And call them params, make it a little bit shorter. Is this the only one? It's the only one in this function. Params. Right. Now let's do what we did last time. We're just going to borrow from future us, and we will pretend there's a utility function to use that will update the tags an episode has, and it will basically take that list that gets passed in from the form, and any tags that are in that list that it doesn't have, it will create those associations, and any tags that it did have that are not in the list will be removed. And we'll just pretend there's one nice function to do all of that for us. Content.update tags. And it needs an episode, and it's just going to take the topics here. It's just going to take this string with words separated by commas, because that's what's easy in the controllers. All right, now to make good on what past us assumed was already written, we need an update tags function. Update tags it doesn't take an entity, it takes something that has an entity. I guess content is what we'll call it, like episodes or articles or whatever. And it's got to have a list of new tags. Not a list, it's got to have, if I keep on saying this wrong, I may actually get it wrong, so let's add in a guard. When is binary? It has to be a binary, aka a string. New tags. And let's see here. We've got to get the new tags as well as the ones that were previously there. Then figure out which ones need to be added, which associations need to be added, and then which tags need to be removed from this piece of content. So we need to figure out what the existing tags are, and that'll be old tags, we'll call them. Old tags equals, we'll use the tags loaded function above, whatever we had for that piece of content, and then we're going to string.split on comma space so that we can get a list of these tags instead of having them all together in one string. And we've got to get new tags in the same format. So we'll just say new tags equals new tags string.split on commas again. Then arrays in Elixir have a difference operation. So if you say like array 1 minus array 2, that will be all of the items that are in 1 that are not in 2, and that'll be very useful here. Dot each. So for each new tag that was not in the set of existing tags, we're going to add that to this piece of content. So add tag content and the tag. That should work. Why is this saying postman again and again and again? Let me turn that extension off. Great extension, but not needed right now. Okay, so this should work as is for adding tags. We don't have a remove tag function built yet, so let's just see if we can add a tag. Awesomeness, and let's say this is also related to OTP. Alright, and I don't show the tags from the show view. May change that at some point. For now, we'll just look at the index. Yeah, awesomeness, OTP, good. You know, I don't want those deletes there, even for the admin view, so I'll change that right now. Episode index. Much better. All right, so let's go back to the editing and see if we can remove a tag. We have add tags, a whole bunch of functions here. Basically, there's so many here. I did these last episode. It's because I wanted it to be very flexible, so you could pass in an entity or an entity ID or a thing that has an entity in it, and a topic ID or a topic text, and in any case it would just do the right thing. And I think it's worth it to do the same for remove. So we'll just create a copy of all of those and make the changes needed. Add. Don't want the last one. Add tag. Okay, there we go. Just make all those remove. And let's see here. We're not getting a topic here. So we get by topic text. That's the same. With a remove tag, if nothing comes up, that's actually what we want to display. So, or we don't want to do anything, because if there's no tag, we just don't do anything at all. And if something, let's see, there is a topic, then we will pass this down to the next level of the function. Remove tag of entity and topic. So this first function I made, or this first function head, it's just when we call remove tag with text for the topic. We get the topic. If the topic exists, we remove the tag. If it doesn't, we're done and it's nil, and actually we don't want this line. So that became a simpler function for remove. And this stays the same. This also stays the same. And the bottom case is a little bit different. We'll just get rid of all that. So if the association between an entity ID and a tag ID exists, then we'll get rid of it. Entity topic, and so we're doing get by on both of the IDs. So we have an entity ID of EID and a topic ID of TID. If we can get this this association between this entity ID and this topic ID, then we've got to delete it. If we don't get anything, if we just get a nil, we'll just return nil. If we get a tag, then it's going to be repo.delete of that tag. All right, and let's give a quick look over. So if we call remove tag with an entity ID and a topic ID we get it from the repo, and if there's an entity topic, which is just a join table between entities and topics, if there is one of those, we delete it. If there's not, we just return null. That's fine. If we call it with an entity and a topic ID, then it gets the ID of the entity and passes it down there. If we call it on like an article or an episode that has an entity ID inside of it, same thing, we get that ID, we kick it down to the next one. If we call it in any case where there's topic text, so say we say remove tag episode 1, comma, quote, deployment, unquote, that will get this topic with the quoted text or with the text deployment from the database and call remove tag on that topic. Actually, that may not be right, on that topic ID. So we check to see, is there a topic called deployment? If yes, we remove tag on, well, if yes, we get the topic ID labeled with deployment and we remove the tag. Okay, I believe this is correct. Let's check it out in the console. So we have ep1, and these are the tags loaded on episode 1. Let's remove tag episode 1 and forum. Remove tag is undefined or private. Oh, that's because I haven't recompiled. Okay, now let's re-get episode 1. Now let's remove the tag. And it's gone. Now we can add it back. Content.add tag episode 1 and forum. Reload our episode and excellent. Okay, now how about multiple tags? We've got almost everything we need done. Remove tag works, so now our update tags, we just need one more here, and it's going to be the inverse of the adding tags. So for every old tag that is no longer in the new tags being passed in, we're going to remove tag of that content and that tag. Save that, and now let's check it in the web page. So we have, I'll just reload to make sure we have the current forums now at the end. This is a new ID because we deleted the other one and created another one. As far as displaying like what order, we can just make a sort later if that's even worth it. So let's say, well, it has to stay awesome. It's the awesome episode. Let's say it's no longer about Phoenix 1.3, but this episode was about CMSs. And so that should change, and we'll also remove forum again. That is pretty nice. Though it would be nicer if we could actually click on these and go through to the topic pages. So let's make a couple changes to the episode's index page. And that's going to be episode index. All right, so instead of just getting each of the topics out of the database and then mapping it together into one long string, separating each topic by commas, which is fine on the form, but instead of doing that on the index page, let's use a little bit more structure and add some styling to it. So I've already copied the styles into the CSS file because that's not really the focus of these screencasts. But let's make this into a TD item, and we'll give it a class topics. And then instead of that enum that we had, we're going to do a higher level list comprehension, basically. So for topic in episodes, or episode.entity.topics do, and for each of them we're going to make a link to the topic. So link to topic path, and it's going to take the con and tagged and a topic. Tagged does not exist. We're going to make that in our routes. Do, and make a div and give this class stamp, and that's just to make a kind of a bubble for each of them. And then we obviously still need the topic text. Topic dot text, and end, and another end, and finally we close our TD. Okay, then we've got to add that route, and we'll just put it under topics. It's not a whole resources, it's just going to be get tagged and a topic, and it's going to be topic controller, and the action is tagged. We've got to go to the topic controller and add that action. We'll make a tagged action up here, and tagged is going to take in a con, and it's going to take in a topic, and that topic was matched in the router that we were just at. We'll save that as topic. Let's think for a minute what we want to happen when we click on one of those tags on an episode. Ideally, it's either going to take you to a page that would show every episode tagged with that topic, or more difficult, but in my opinion more interesting, would be a page where all kinds of content, regardless of whether if they're resource page links or episodes or whatever, they're all mixed together as long as they have that tag. What we're going to do for now is just make a placeholder, since today's goal is really the episodes page, but we will come back to this function. For now, it's just going to render con and show.html, and the entity, actually let's look at the show, and do basically the same thing. All right, and that doesn't look good. Recompile and see what's going on. We have episode index, syntax error before topic. All right. It was line 21. And line 21 is missing a comma. That would do it. And it looks like this div isn't closed either. All right, let's see how that looks. Much better. What's that little green underline we're seeing? That is not intended. It's only on hover. At hover, yep, now it appears. And what's this? White space only text node. Delete node. Oh, and then the problem goes away. Okay. So white space only text node, and that's after all of them. Yes, that could just be a quirk in the templating. You've got embedded, a couple of embedded do's. Let's see if that does the trick. It does. Okay, excellent. All right, now we've got a nice little set of stamps for our topic tags, and despite the fact that topics aren't even directly related episodes, they have a many-to-many relationship with something that episodes are related to. We can edit them, and we can do so in masse. We can just replace all of these tags and say this was actually about dev tools and recursion and Phoenix 1.3, and there we go. The meh episode now is updated with these new topics, and it so turns out that this Phoenix 1.3 is still tagged the topic ID number 4, so we didn't create a new one. It was intelligent enough to just use the one that we already had. And that's pretty much what we want. So let's just call this a win for the day and leave off the other way, the view for all the various types of content with any given topic tag for next time. And I've also got a couple other ideas. Like, I think it would be really neat if instead of typing in HTML, this were Markdown. And that's not too hard to do. I did that for my old project, actually. So I'll probably make that change, and probably an extended Markdown instead of just the basic or even the GitHub flavored version. And then it's also, ideas like letting users like content and so much more stuff to do for CMS. So that's it for today, and see you next time.